Hello, everybody. My name is C.Webb-Cook. I'm the head of English at Ipswich Academy, and thank you for giving up your time to share this session with me on live modelling. So today our session is on how to stop students copying your work and start them thinking about theirs. I'm going to start with a shameless self-plug. If this session is useful to you, the Visualizer Handbook is out now, and what I'm sharing with you today is some of the strategies I discuss within it. And if any of you would find it useful, I would be thrilled if you would check it out and let me know what you think. So we're going to look at live modelling today. We're going to specifically look at how you can make students more active within the process, how you can activate the I do and we do phases so when students just transition more seamlessly into independence. Now, this is a process, and I'm going to share with you an example of how that can look in a classroom. So let's get started. Really important to begin with is thinking about our students as what they are, novices. We are experts. We have mastery in our fields. We have our degrees, which we've studied for. We've got potentially years of teaching practice that we have honed our skills over time. Our students don't have that. And thinking about expertise is a really interesting way to do this. Expertise is where skills and knowledge meet. We've all designed our knowledge-rich curricula. We've thought about the skills that students need to use, but actually when you link those together, expertise is the system whereby the knowledge our students have can be used for maximum effect. And my favourite model of expertise is the Dreyfus model. So the Dreyfus model breaks down expertise into these 5 sections. Our students begin as novices. They might be able to recognise the features of an essay. They might be able to notice something, say, yep, that's an essay. Or, yep, I noticed there's quotes. Or, okay, I'm noticing that this is writing about those quotes in detail. And they see the rules. And if they want to use it themselves, they have to use those rules strictly. There is no freedom. There is only a slavish adherence to this very strict set of principles, because that is all they know how to do. As students become competent, those rules change into guidelines. Students, through experience and practice, they are then can begin to experiment a bit. They have the contextual knowledge that allows them to build and improve their own work. And as they move through to proficient, they've had an even wider range of experiences and situations that have built gradually and systematically, and they have a real basis for recognition. They can start to transfer their skills, and they can start seeing, right, as an essay writer, I can see how my essays in English link to my essays in history, and I can start using similar approaches to doing that. Also, across texts, I know how to write an essay that uses an extract. So therefore, I can start thinking about how I can do a comparative essay and linking those together. And most importantly, as you can see, as they improve on that spectrum, the need for monitoring and feedback reduces. Obviously, the feedback need is always there, but students become more independent. So we often jump, I think, in asking these novices to do things that proficient students should be able to do. And then we can be surprised when they can't do it. We need to break down these steps really gradually, understand our own expertise, understand that we are masters, and we need to reject the curse of knowledge, look at our students' work and how we can improve them. So how do we do this then? I'm going to use the very simple model of I do, we do, you do, a basis that most students work on really comfortably, that most teachers know and understand. And the most important thing here is modeling the process, not the product. Often I see live modeling happen in classrooms, or I speak to teachers, and very much they are focused on producing an essay for their class to look at. If that's the case, just print off what a good one looks like. Go onto the exam board and print off an example of student work and discuss that. The fact of live modeling is not the final product, it's the process that you break it down into. So when you're in the I do phase, you need to be thinking, what is going on in my brain? How can I communicate that to the classes to really invite them in to your expert process, into this shared space where they can see their expertise growing? So there's a few ways to do this, a few really important steps. First of all, know the process that you're teaching. No matter what you use, to structure your writing, you need to have a really solid understanding of that process. So, for example, the example we're going to look at the end of this lesson is what, how, why. You need to know that, you need to understand it, and you need to be able to introduce that to your students. You need to understand the key leverage moments for your class. Now, this changes across the year. For example, if you've spent a load of time working on embedding quotations in the autumn term, when you get into the spring term, embedding quotations is no longer a key leverage moment. It's something that you should mention but not discuss in detail because you're building onto that process. So understanding where your class are, what they can do, what they need to be able to do next is really important. Activate their prior knowledge. As we've just said, the class in the spring term that spent all of the autumn embedding quotations, remind them, signpost it. Right, embedding quotations, we did this, what do we need to remember? Turn and talk to your partner. Immediately activate that prior knowledge and signpost that skills. Say that we are embedding a quotation. We know how to do this. Who can help me? Or here's how I'm going to do it here. So signpost it, label it, make it clear to the students that they are following a process. Those rules that the novice is so reliant on, those guidelines that a competent student still needs are there clearly. And at each step, describe your thinking. Share with them what you're doing and why you are doing it. And that is the process that will enable them to see and share your experience. I'm thinking here, I'm going to zoom in on a word. I'm going to look at the quote. What word am I going to pick out? This verb is really interesting. So let's write a sentence about that as an example. So once we've done that process, written our essay, we now have to move to a scaffolded independence. So the we do phase of our piece of writing. Now, this is often the phase that I find teachers really struggle with, especially in English, because the we do phase, well, writing a paragraph as a class can be clunky, it can feel strange or quite alien. So here's some things that we can do to break down and think about transitioning towards independence. So bring the students into the process with you, asking simple questions like checks for listening almost. Right, so I've done the what am I doing next? Okay, oh, we're going to go do the how. Bringing them into that process and really getting them to articulate the step-by-step approach is vital. Remind students of their strategies and prompt their usage. Go, oh, okay, you've not embedded a quote. We need to embed a quote here. Who can help me do that? And ask for the support from the class. Building the space whereby they can contribute meaningfully and with really clear guidelines every step of the way. Predict their misconceptions. We all know what a year 7 essay is going to look like when they first attempt one. We all know what they're going to struggle with. We know what we're going to see. So we need to plan for that and build in our we do to say, right, you might be thinking of doing this. However, what's the problem with this? Or why would this not get very many marks in our assessment? Get the students to articulate that misconception and then say, right, instead, excellence looks like this. And then don't forget the I do. Students should still have access to that I do, whether it's printed out in their books, that you've done it on the visualizer, but then you've given them a copy out to stick in themselves so you can annotate and label it, or whether you've got it on the board so they can still see it. But keep referring back to it. Go, oh, when I did it, I did this. When I did it, I did that. So keep referring backwards and forwards. So here's one strategy that you could take and use in your classrooms tomorrow. So this strategy is called the double margin. What I've got here is a page. This is what my page in my book would look like. So as I'm writing here, I'm writing an essay and analysing the quotation from Wilfred Owen's Exposure, "Our brains ache in the merciless iced east winds that knife us." I've written a paragraph here using the what, how, why structure. So as I was writing this, I would be explaining this process, saying what I'm doing, talking about the approaches that I'm using. And the most important thing is my students would not be copying this down. I don't want my students to copy this down. What their page would look like is this. So they've double width their margins, and as I'm writing, and either I can write this in the margin myself to scaffold them if they need some assistance with they're not fully independent yet, or I can leave them to capture if I trust the class more regularly, or I can go back and do it at the end to make sure they've not missed anything important. And what we're doing here is a structure banner. They are scaffolding their own work. So it's the process that they've recorded in their margin. Now, the powerful thing here is I can leave this on the visualizer during the we do and during the you do, so students can keep referring back to it. But in their books, they have the most important element. They have the structure, the process. So why is this such an effective strategy for you to use? It minimizes the strain on cognitive load, because instead of students thinking about copying down and spellings, etc., especially students with SEN, they are listening, they are engaging, they have to capture notes themselves, but you can support that as your class needs. It allows for a process to be introduced and recorded. That's a replicable process that you can keep using and using and using over and over again with the same language. So students become really comfortable with it and confident with it. So you can record this process that they can use, and even in future lessons, they can flick back and it's still there. And it scaffolds the we do and the I do. You've given them the scaffolding. They've got a model on the board that they can use. So in the we do, when they're starting to do it themselves, when they're starting to use the structure, and in the I do, or the you do, apologies, where they are fully independent, they are working from a supported structure. So finally, I just want to say thank you for your time. And if you've found this useful, there's loads more tips in my book. And also, I'm on social media. Please just search me and I'd be happy to discuss anything. Thank you very much.